Because the world outside is very noisy and very tempting, and it has all the razzmatazz, it has all the tinsel and all the glitter. It's got all the toys. But that's because you don't think you're enough in the first place.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 309. Hope you're amazing as always. Hope you really, really are. Do you know what? What date are we on today? I'm going to give you a date today. We're on the 16th of June, 2021. Do you know what I mean? I'm sitting here in Latin America right now, and I'm looking at some beautiful mountains. The sky is clear. I've got skyscrapers all around me, and I've got trees below. Life's good, and I hope life is really, really good with you, you know? Everything seems to be settling down in the world. Things seem to be getting back to whatever the normal is, and I hope that your life, business, income, family, and happiness is on point. I really do. I think it's the biggest thing, you know what I mean? Happiness is such an overlooked thing, and it's because... well, guess what? You know, you've probably heard me rant on about this in the past for sure, especially if you're a regular listener. And do you know what? It's like we are so programmed, especially by social media these days, and it's wild. Because years ago, it was interesting, right? What was the main focus before social media? Yeah, everybody wanted money and success, but it was our own personal success. Do you know what I mean by that? It was our personal success that was defined by us. But the truth is, it's no longer like that, is it? We click on Instagram, we click on Facebook, we click on TikTok, we click on whatever the heck else you're playing, right? And wherever you're playing, understand that success is being defined for you. Do you get that? Do you know what the biggest thing is right now in influencers? And it's definitely not something I'm interested in ever being, but it's Lamborghinis. Do you know what I mean? If you've got a Lamborghini, you are now really, really cool. Now, I'm not saying Lamborghinis aren't cool, but do you know what I mean? I've been around a lot of these people, and there's still always an emptiness. And there's an emptiness because they're trying to define themselves by somebody else's standards, somebody else's world. Does that make sense? I mean, the truth is, if you're on $1 million a year, and hopefully you are, right, you shouldn't be driving a $500,000 car. Does that make sense? If you're on $1 million a year, you should be living on probably 200 grand of it, tops. And guess what else you should be doing? You should be investing that money to create generational wealth. You know, you're going to see over the months and the years of this podcast, because I will keep it going, you know what I mean? But you're going to see a shift. And what I mean by a shift is, as I work with finance, as I work with these other businesses that I'm launching, as we're raising funds, as we're doing all these other things, you know what I mean? It's a case, I'm launching also an amazing new company with a coaching company, but it's for high performers, right? But it's for people who are really striving for monster success. And the thing about this is we're adding metaphysical, we're adding financial, we're adding mental, and we're adding physical, right? So when we put all those things together, that creates a superhuman. And that superhuman who's in alignment with where they're supposed to go and what they're supposed to do, then they understand the purpose on earth isn't to bling, bling, douchebags. What it's supposed to do is you're supposed to actually create legacy in the world, and it's not about your name, it's about legacy for the world. Does that make sense? So when people talk about legacy, I have a massive disagreement with it, because it's all about ego. It's all about identity. It's all about getting a name so people know it after they die. Same with kids, right? There's a lot of people don't have kids because they want kids. They have kids so their name can be passed on. And hey, whatever, that's okay, but understand, that's fucked up. Do you know what I mean? You're supposed to do your best in every capacity of your life, right? So there's my little rant to start this thing, but I just want to share with you, where you are at is beautiful. It's perfect. And you should be proud of where you're at. Because as an entrepreneur, what happens is we don't care. Like, look at it this way. In corporate world, they're like, well, what's your status? What's your car? What's your house, right? What job do you have? What career? Well, I'm a high-level management at blah, blah, blah. That's great. As an entrepreneur, no one cares. What we care about is your journey from the past, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs, how you rebounded, and where you're going to. Does that make sense? Because where you're going to is going to be the rest of your life. It's not what happened. It's not where you are, right? So when you can understand that, I'm trying to share with you, think massive. Think massive. Because if you can think massive in the highest possible purpose of your life, then all of this noise that's around you just stops. It just stops. Doesn't mean you're going to have a roller coaster sometimes, like emotional roller coaster. You are. But the truth is, when we train our brain, we train our software, we train our mind muscle, we get control over being able to step into flow in an instant, being able to control our emotions whenever we need it, step into blue oceans, untapped waters, right? And most people are scared, but if we have neuro-conditioned or preconditioned our nervous system brain to think of money a certain way, the deal a certain way, stepping into that meeting a certain way, that sale a certain way. What happens is 100%, that's how we double, triple, quadruple people's results. That's what it is. Everybody learns skill sets. That's really what's taught out there. And then you throw a little bit of mindset in there. You've got to be positive. Think like this, right? Trust the universe. All good things, I get it. But when we're talking advanced levels and when I'm talking with multimillionaires, do you think that's what they want to hear? No, they want exact strategies and tactics of how to handle this situation, get over this, but more importantly, they want their brain and body, they want it to be bulletproof. Because if you're bulletproof, then what happens is you can walk into any situation and own it. Make sense? Good. I hope it makes sense. Because that leads me to today's episode. Now, if you don't know Guy Ritchie, one of the top directors in Hollywood, you probably should. For a start, he's a Brit, so we always got to love that. But he was married to Madonna. Probably he's not proud of that. But what he is proud of is some of the films that he's made. His latest one, it's not his latest one, actually, because his latest one's with Jason Statham, and it's amazing, but it's very, very dark and twisted, and not his normal style. His normal style is quirky, it's fun, but it's a little bit gangster, you know? So, The Gentleman, Matthew McConaughey, if you haven't watched that, that's possibly my favorite film ever. It's amazing. It's amazing. So go and watch that. We got Snatch, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, King Arthur, loads of films. But the point is, he did an interview probably about a year or so ago on Rogan, and this is a fantastic clip from it, and I'll break it down a little bit more. But what this is about is extreme ownership. And what I mean by that is responsibility for your life, your industry, what you're doing. Because if you're going to be doing the game that you're playing, then play it, right? Play it at your best. If you're going to do chess, become your best at it. It doesn't mean the best, it means your best, right? If you're going to do sales, then do your best, right? Own it, the responsibility of that. If you're launching a new online business or you're scaling an online business, right? There's stages to this, whether you're moving from 5 to 6, 7 to 8, 8 to 9 figures plus. The point is all of this starts what is programmed in your brain and how you react to getting things done. So when you can understand that neuro-conditioning is something very special, it's not personal development, it's not self-help, it's definitely not life coaching. I've done this for 19 years all over the world with the top people in the world. And my whole mission in life is to share that with you. Why? Because I want to make you amazing. I want to make you amazing. Why? Because I really believe entrepreneurs are the people that are going to change the world and the economy. So I want you to be the best, absolute monster version of you. Why? Because then you're going to fulfill what you're here on earth for. And if you fulfill that, it means you're going to create a massive ripple effect to thousands, if not millions of people. And guess what that does? Just like you listening to this, you're going to change and step up and do something different today, right? And that's what I want you to ripple through the world. Sound good? Make sense? I know I'm going on a bit of a rant, but I hope that makes sense. So, speaking of making sense, let's do something different together, right? Let's do something different today because you're listening to this for a reason. And I don't know what that reason is, but I'd really like to know. I'd really like you to connect with me. And I am doing this me now because the other things are off the table, right? The other projects, the other things, the Firemind, it's all filled, it's all done, it's finished, it's closed. You missed it, plain and simple. But what I do have on the table is something very unique, very special, and it's only available to a handful of people. And I mean that it's only ever going to be to a handful of people. And it might not be available in 18 months, right? When I've moved into a whole different stage of my life. But right now it is. And I'm here to mentor you. I'm here to give you the same tactics, tools, and systems that I've given to 10,000 people personally. We've done nearly $2 million downloads on the podcast. I've worked with NBC stars, celebrities. I've worked with Hollywood producers, actors, world champion fighters, world champions, 9-figure CEOs, some of the biggest people online. And I just want to share with you the same tactics, plain and simple. Now, what this means is that I got like X amount of spots. It's not that many. But what the real cool thing is you get access to not only me each week, which is pretty damn badass, right? You get access to an instant hustling team of entrepreneurs. So if you feel on your own, this is for you. If you're looking direct to a highest level mentor of mental performance and business, then you need to speak to me, right? And also you're getting cutting edge digital training, which, you get access to on demand. So all of those things come with my Firemind private circle. That's what it is. It's my private circle. And as I say, I'm taking interviews now. I am. And when it's filled, it's filled. So jump on this opportunity, grab it, and let's go and kick ass together. Sound good? Beautiful. Let's do this. Let's make your business life scale to a whole new level together. Okay, guess how you're going to do that? Well, you're going to go to the show notes. Plain and simple. Or you're going to go to andymurphy.biz or andymurphy.online. Depends when you're listening to this. We're changing over their website. So you're going to go there and you're going to click on mentoring. Yeah, click on mentoring. And what that's going to be is it's going to take you to a very simple, quick application form, and then you get to have a little chat with me. That's it. Easy, simple. You can do it today. So let's do that. Speaking of doing it now, why don't we jump into today's episode? You're going to absolutely love it, I know. And make sure you're sharing this episode. Make sure you're writing a review, because that would help. And make sure that you kick ass and implement all of what we talk about today, because I know it could be the most profound day of your life when you get that aha. Sound good? Beautiful. Let's jump in and let's go meet Mr. Guy Ritchie. And I'll see you at the end of the show.
I'll have to be. I'm getting fascinated by the way your brain works, because for you, it's important that the person want to wear the suit. And I have a feeling that that's symbolic of how you feel about life itself. Like, the person has to want to be doing what they're doing. They have to want to wear that suit. It has to be an authentic gesture.
Do Did you ever read a book called Extreme Ownership, written by a couple of Navy SEALs?
That's Jocko Willink, right? No, that's.
I think it is.
Is it? Is
Yep.
it Jocko's book? Yeah.
Yeah, it
yeah,
is.
I've had Jocko on the show a bunch of times.
Important book.
Well, I've had him on once before. What am I talking about? A bunch of times.
Right.
I've had him once, but
But it's
talked
an
to him a
important
lot.
book.
Yes.
Right. Now, there's lots of books that have picked up on this theme, but they were very eloquent about it. If you don't own something, you're not the boss. You have to take full responsibility for everything that you do. Why be subservient? You must be the master of your own kingdom.
I feel you. Makes a lot of sense.
You've got to own that. You can't just walk into things with your eyes half open. You've got to walk into things with your eyes fully open. You've got to know what you're getting into. You have to take possession of your life.
Okay, crew, so let's start there. Do you know what I mean? Let's start there. And I want you to start thinking about your own life, your own business, what's going on right now that's causing you mental distress or something that you need to move into. Think about that, right? What is it that you are not taking ownership of? Or it might be an online business that you're creating, right? And the truth is you might have just started it and you didn't realize how in-depth, intense, and how much work it actually is, right? You might be thinking that now and going, damn, you know what I mean? I paid all this money for this course off this guru, right? There's air quotes going on there, who showed me a shiny car, who showed me all of these things. And he said it was going to be really easy, and it's not, right? So did you go in with your eyes half open? And I love that expression. Did you go in with your eyes half open? Meaning, were you chasing something? Or were you going in to systematically build the business no matter what it takes, right? Were you programming your brain in the morning? Were you able to change state into flow before you start work? Were you using certain brain waves, right, in your ears? Were you understanding and programming the certain visualization? Probably not. Right? So when you start stepping into the unknown, what happens, right? Your brain has it in a fight, flight, or freeze response. It lights up an alarm system. Are you safe? Right? And if we haven't preconditioned you to be able to respond like you are bulletproof or you're like world class, then what happens is you're going to start reacting. Your nervous system's going to start reacting. And that might be why you're thinking, God, was this the right decision? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. And if it was the right decision, then guess what? You need to take responsibility and ownership for every aspect of that business and your life. Make sense? Good. Let's keep listening to Guy.
Is this a thought process that you have to constantly reaffirm, or is this cemented in
it's
your
exactly
head?
that. It's exactly that. You drift on this point.
Right.
And it is whatever form of meditation or mantra that you decide to espouse, there needs to be some period in your day where you remember that there's a world out there trying to tell you who you are, and there's a world in here that's trying to tell you who you are. Now, where do you want to put your eggs?
So as my fellow Brit says, where do you want to put your eggs? Do you know what I mean? And that's what he's talking about. And that's what I tried to show you at the very start of the show. And that's why I also rant on about this episode after episode. It's a case of understanding that the society is dictating what is success, and you believe it, or you believe your own intuition in your own world, right? Makes sense, right? The other side is, what is he talking about? He's talking about conditioning your nervous system and brain constantly every day, interrupting patterns, directing your focus, changing your internal dialogue, rewriting the movies and the images in your head. So suddenly you can take your business from 5 figures to 7 figures. Why? Because you've adapted your brain and nervous system. It's the only way. So when you start listening to Guy, think about that.
Because the world outside is very noisy and very tempting, and has all the razzmatazz, has all the tinsel and all the glitter. It's got all the toys. But that's because you don't think you're enough in the first place. If you don't think you're enough in the first place, The whole idea of the world to sell you stuff is, first of all, they have to make you feel bad about yourself, less than in some way. And I don't resent this system, by the way. It is the system. But what's the expression about don't hate the player, hate the game? Don't hate the game. Love the game because you're in it, mate. So own the game, accept the rules, and move on into the rules. So the world will try and tell you who you are, and you have to tell yourself who you are. And there's this ongoing battle. And somehow there needs to be a reconciliation between the two. But in the end, you've got to have all the eggs in your basket.
Making sense so far, right? And that's the truth. So what society does, and I'm not just talking about society, just like Guy, you accept it because it's also awesome, but also understand that there's the movies that you're watching, the music that's pumped out, it's all designed to make you feel insecure. The way social media is, and even marketing these days, it's bullshit, because what it shows you is that you're not good enough. Look at all these celebrities. You don't look good enough. You haven't got the abs. You haven't got the ass, right? You haven't got the money. You haven't got the car. So you're not good enough. So buy this brand, connect with this, and then at least you can pretend to be that good. That's the same with all, like, think about this with clothing, right? With designers and bags. Why are the bags out there that are like 200 grand? It's a handbag, right? Do you think 200 grand could help how many families, how many kids, how many, you know what I mean? But it's because that means something in our society, because we have been indoctrinated. And when you start to realize that, it becomes comical. It becomes really comical. And I like shiny things too, but I understand that those shiny things are just shiny things, right? They come second. It's like, I keep seeing quotes around, and it's quite a nice quote. Be the person with $50,000, or I'll start again. Be the person with $100,000 invested, not a $100,000 car, right? Does that make sense? So be the person, take that 100 grand, put it into your investments, because that's going to give you the freedom. And ultimately, that's all you want. That's all you want, right? If you never looked at your bank balance, never looked at your account, and you could fly anywhere, do anything, stay anywhere, would you even care how much money you had? No, you wouldn't, right? So this is about understanding that it's about your own self-worth. And this is a journey to get there. And all that's the thing with, you got a lot of billionaires and ultra-rich people, and I've worked with them. And they're empty inside, because what you hit is a ceiling on what gives them pleasure, right? A ceiling on what makes them happy. And then they keep buying, keep accumulating. And at the end of the day, the challenge is, once you've got the best things, you've got the best things. Once you've experienced a certain level of life, you've experienced it. It doesn't get any better. What gets better is your own internal journey and happiness. Make sense? Let's jump back into Guy.
There's also an ongoing internal battle, though, isn't there? There's the you that you want people to think you are, and there's the you who you are, and trying to figure out, like, how do I figure out who I am? Like, do I have a correct assumption of how the people are perceiving me and how I actually am objectively, or am I bullshitting the world with this suit and pocket square?
Yeah, I would say it's exactly the scenario that we're talking about. There's essentially only two worlds. There's the inner world of energy, and there's the outer world of energy. There's two identities. One's real, one's false. The external world is, I'm asking you to tell me who I am. That's what we're all playing at. And as soon as you start playing that game, we run into all sorts of trouble. Call it the ego, call it whatever you want to call it. But that's the dynamic that we're in. And somehow we have to give ourselves enough confidence to reassure ourselves that we are enough. However, I enter the game because I've got to move on in the world. I've got to crack on in the world. And I know there's loads of temptations that can come along the way. So I will own the suit. I'm going to wear the suit, but I'm going to own the suit. Now, I don't mean by paying for it. I mean by owning it. It's now my suit. It's my idea to put on this suit. I have to personalize it in some way. I have to understand a narrative that allows me to own that suit. And thereby, I put on my suit of armor and I come out into the world. And guess what? I'm having a good time because I'm owning the suit.
Now, this is a very rock-solid philosophy. Is this something you've ever written down?
It's what the essence of narrative. I'm a storyteller. The essence of narrative is only about this dynamic. There is nothing else in a story other than this dynamic.
So the struggle between other people's perceptions and your own wants and desires and who you truly are, your significant real self.
That's it. That's all there is. You tell me a story that we engaged in, that's famous, that's not about this journey.
So, are you owning the suit? Do you know what I mean? Are you taking responsibility for every area of your life? Are you taking responsibility for your health, your happiness, your family, right? The people who love you. Are you taking responsibility for your life? Are you here for a reason, or are you just like messing around? Do you know what I mean? What are you doing with your life? Are you stepping up or are you stepping out? Are you wasting time in nightclubs and partying and drinking? Or are you getting on with it, right? That's what he's talking about. Extreme life ownership. And when you can really understand what that means in every aspect, then it's time to hit that next level. Stop pretending to be somebody you're not. Right? This drives me crazy. This is the internet marketing world. Everyone's trying to pretend to be something that they're not. Because most of these people, you got to understand, I met a lot of them and they're boring. They're so boring. They don't have them shit together. They don't have themselves together. But they're brilliant copywriters. They can sit behind a webinar. They can make a video. But you meet them in person, there's no personality. There's no depth. They're tacticians, right? That's a logical brain. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. But if you don't know who you are, then you're going to allow somebody else to dictate that. Right? And that's what's happening in most people's lives. And the truth is, that's why people feel empty. You achieved, you get the house, you get the car, right? And then how long does that novelty last? Not long. I've had those things. I was 26 years old driving around in a 5 Series BMW. I had two, investment real estate, top of the game. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And one of the most amazing people I read an article, and it was wrote by a business partner of an old client of mine, Jason Katzenbach. Matt Clark is his business partner in Amazing.com. Don't know Amazing.com? Into Amazon? Go and check them out. There are no affiliates, nothing like that, but they're badasses. And what this article Matt Clark talked about was something really special. He'd bought the $3 million house. He'd bought all those things, right? And he was young, they were partying, all the rest of it, all the success that you would think that would bring happiness. And you know what he said? He gives it, within, I think, 4 weeks, they were over the house. It was costing $20,000 a month to maintain, all of these things. And what he said was he got rid of everything. And he gives it, I don't do anything now or purchase anything unless it's cash. I'm debt free. Why? He bought a $950,000 house. He gives it, do you know how much stress is taken off your head when you don't have to pay a mortgage or bills? Do you know what happens when you purchase a car and you don't have to even worry about a payment each month? The level of stress that gets taken off your head is incredible. And then you start to understand how the monetary system and the financial system actually created leases for cars and all of this to get people into debt, right? Because then we're stuck. It's the same with a mortgage. It's not an income-producing asset. It's not unless you're in a massive growth area. And then that's only capital gains. It's not income-producing. So the income-producing comes from a different way. That's investment properties, sure. That's investments, sure. That's passive income businesses, sure, right? So when you start to understand all these things, it just changes your life, right? Years and years ago, people wouldn't get mortgages. They'd just save up and get a house. Even if it took 10 years, 15 years, they'd save up and get a house, right? Or they'd save up and purchase a car. But we don't do that these days, right? We don't do that. Now, if you own your own business, I can hear people saying, I just get a lease, Andy, and it runs it through the business. Okay, that's cool. That's a totally different topic, right? Totally different topic. But when we talk about extreme life ownership, where are you at?
I'll give you an example. The prodigal son. parable, Christian, seems religious, doesn't really make much sense. Do you know the story?
Sure, but why don't you lay it out?
So there's a father. He has 2 sons, an older son and a younger son. And he says to them, who wants to spend their inheritance? The younger son says, me, Dad, I'll go and spend it. And the younger son takes all the dough and he runs off and sniffs coke off strippers' tits for a number of years until he realises this is getting pretty boring and I'm in a lot of trouble. He ends up throwing food to pigs. That's his job. And he can't even eat the food that he gives to the pigs, at which point he says, Dad, will you take me back? Dad then they don't meet. This somehow happens, not through telephones, it just happens. At which point Dad goes to the fatted calf, says, kill the fatted calf. Older son says, hold on, Dad, what's going on? I've stayed with you since the beginning. I've been loyal to you. And I hear the stories of my younger brother coming back, who's been sniffing coke off strippers' tits for the last God knows how many years. And you're prepared to kill the fatted calf. What's the SP, Dad? I want to know the story. He says, you're all right, son. Don't worry about that. You take a little step to the side. You'll always be with me. You're a good boy. At which point he goes out to meet the prodigal son, the wasteful son. The wasteful son returns and he says, you were lost and now you're found. That's the end of the story. It's quite hard to make sense of that in a literal sense. You go, oh, Dad was a bit unfair and you should have been kind to the older son because he never ran off and did anything. But the essence of the story is that you are the father. You are enough. Your older son is your intellect. He says, oh, don't do this, don't do that. He's trying to reconcile, make sense of a prosaic and material world. The younger son, being the wild, feral entity that he is, wants to go out in the world and find out what it's all about. So in his recklessness and sense of adventure, he finds that he can't escape himself. So he has to return to himself. And at which point, he has to accept who he is. At which point, the intellect is left out of the equation pretty much as the older brother, because he can't understand the significance of the journey of the wasteful brother. In the end, you have to leave yourself to understand the value of yourself. You have to lose stuff before you realize that all the stuff that you're losing is ephemeral and transitory. It's not yours. You're enough. You're always enough. But you've got to somehow prostitute yourself before you realize your own value. That is the essence of all stories.
Boom. Think about that, right? That's a profound story. You might have heard it before, but it's true, man. It's so true. What is it in your life that, remember, life goes in chapters, it goes in stages, it's a story. It's, I personally believe that we've pre-designed this in our before we even came. But that's getting a little bit woo-woo, but I really believe that, right? I can go down the science route, we can go down the quantum physics route, we can go down the spirituality route, as deep as you want, right? But that's the point. And when I was 24, 25, 26 years old, I was 27, I was at the top of the game in 2 different countries, putting together a $100 million resort, right? The identity, the ego, it meant something. It's all noise, right? I partied all over the world, played all over the world, traveled all over the world for the past 19 years. Do you know what I mean? And the truth is, doesn't matter how shiny things are, doesn't matter what's going on in your life. The truth is, are you at peace when you are at home on your own, right? That's the key word, on your own. If you constantly need people around you, there's an issue. We need to have a little chat, right? But when you start to apply this into your business and life, understand that life is a direct mirror of your business. Your business is a direct reflection of where you are at on your own journey. And when you start to begin to understand this, that I love that analogy, I love that story, right? Because there are different parts of us, there are different sides of us. And when we understand that, man, everything changes. Everything changes. So you are enough. So if you're enough, why wouldn't you play fucking massive? Why wouldn't you play full out? Why wouldn't you go and make this happen?
That's deep, Guy Ritchie. Is that something you think about all the time? Or is this I mean, this is like a cemented philosophy.
So, King Arthur, the story you
Okay.
just made. A man is a king, has a son. The son, the father runs into a bit of aggro. The son jumps into a little boat, a little skillet, and he's not skillet. That's what you cook your chops on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Skiff, a little skiff. The skiff takes off down the river. He gets found by prostitutes. He's brought up in a brothel. He understands the ways of the street. He becomes a king on the street. He works his way out the different ladders, and then he pulls a sword from a stone at a certain point in his life, a certain point of evolution, and then from there he goes on to be the king. There's a bit of a tussle all along the way, lots of wrestling matches. In the end, he fights down his demons and he becomes the king. So what's the significance of this narrative? That every man in himself is aristocratic, that he is his own king. He takes a sojourn into the material world, has to climb up all the different rungs on the ladder, and ultimately has to return to himself. The significance of the extraction from the sword from the stone is the stone is the material world. The material world, which seems all solid because it controls you whilst you're projecting your sense of identity upon it. The extraction of the stone is taking back your own authority, your own divinity, your own authority, your own identity, whatever it is that you've got to call it, your own power. You're no longer looking for a sense of self outside of yourself. And then you have to face the demons that you've created in your history by facing them and fighting them and owning them. You put them in the face of who you are, and that's a wrestling match. You'd have to take away all these crutches, and that's all that we struggle from in life, is taking away our crutches. Oh, please tell me who I am. Oh, please give me a bit more money so other people think I'm clever. Oh, and then I'll have a nice car and people think I'm clever. You've got to take away all these crutches and stand as the man that you are, and you're liberated from your whole thing. So that is the story of King Arthur. But it's not just the story of King Arthur, it's the story of all narrative.
Do you think that most people that are watching the film are going to get that, though? They're just going to get an entertaining story. They're just going to see a bunch of cool stuff, some drama play out. But this is fascinating that you're operating so many levels underneath it.
Yeah, but I'm a storyteller. It's my business. So if I'm in the business of story, I might as well understand story. And do you need to understand all that? I'm not sure if you do. Depends where you are on the ladder. So you can just go along, have a nice bit of entertainment. Good guy, bad guy. Everything's literal. There's nothing wrong with literalism. It is what it is. It's the game. You can glean what you can glean when you're ready to glean what you're ready to glean.
Are you a Joseph Campbell fan?
I am a Joseph Campbell fan, yeah.
Yeah, that's a reoccurring theme in his work.
The hero's journey.
Yes, the hero's journey. This underlying sort of narrative that just really guides all stories and all ancient tales, and that there's something inherently human about them, important about these stories. They resonate with our wants and needs and goals, and even also maybe the structure that we really truly need in our own life.
Yeah, I mean, all stories from whatever period, I'm sympathetic to this particular, to Joseph Campbell's philosophy on this. But he's not the only one, right?
Right.
The weird thing about religion is religion has done to the spiritual significance of narrative what the businessman did to the suit.
Hope you're enjoying this so far, crew. I really do, because I love this, and I'm going to be doing lots more of these. I think they're important. There's so many incredible minds out there, and I want to showcase them in these type of clips, you know. So this next section, I absolutely love. And I've taught it many times, and it's the businessman taken over the suit, and we have to claim this back. But what does that really mean? Let Guy Ritchie explain.
He's literalized it. He didn't realize that putting on a suit is putting on a suit of armor, is putting on something that's rather spectacular. You're just doing it for convention. You're doing it for others. You're not doing it for you. And in our literal mind, we look at a narrative and we see the narrative for what we believe it to be, the exterior aspect of the narrative. So we see the world upside down. We're not actually interested in the essence of the narrative because we're so busy pandering after the approval of others. So everything that we see, every narrative that we listen to, every film that you see, you're not really interested in its soul. You're interested in its body, because that's what we correspond to.
It's fascinating that you're comparing it to Suits, because it resonates. Like when you think of a guy showing up for work or getting ready for work and he doesn't want to go and he's putting on this suit and it's just dredging through it and putting it on, or you think about a guy who's crisply tucking in his collars and putting on his cufflinks and tightening up his tie, and he feels empowered by the whole process of it. It's very appealing. Like if you see it in a film too, it's very exciting. This is a man of purpose.
They did it in Mean Streets. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
It was Harvey Keitel getting dressed to go out on a Friday night, and it affected a whole generation of people about the way they dressed because he owned it.
Yeah. I never really thought about that until this conversation. It's not because I don't really I wear suits occasionally, like very, very occasionally.
But you've been robbed.
I've been robbed.
You've been robbed. There are so many aspects of life. Food for a long time got robbed from us, and we've slowly managed to claw that back.
It's true.
But clothes, really? You're a 45-year-old geezer and you're still dressing like an 18-year-old? What cuss is all that about?
Well, some people like to be comfortable, though.
I get that, by the way.
And they like that look.
Comfortable.
Your suit's comfortable?
It's comfortable. Yeah. You can get poured into this, completely deconstructed on the inside, made by a chap called Brunello, knows what he's doing.
So these are all handmade?
It won't be handmade.
Tailored?
No, I bought this off the shelf and I had a couple of things tweaked. But it's as comfortable as a pair of pajamas.
Really?
Yeah. See, again, you have to broker a deal. You can't put on things that are uncomfortable because guess what happens in the morning? You're looking through your suits and you go, oh, I like that one, but I'm going to wear a comfortable one.
So they all have to be comfortable.
Well, otherwise you're not going to play the game, are you?
Okay, crew, there we go. The end of episode 309. Love Guy Ritchie? Love Guy Ritchie? Love this episode? Love this episode. I must have listened to that whole podcast probably like 6 times, and it's 3 hours long, and it's maybe 2 years old now, and it's profound. It's profound. There's so many people that have been on his show that are profound, but there's so many people in the world that are profound, and I really want to showcase them more and more, and that's probably where I'm going with these things, right? And speaking of going somewhere, are you taking ownership of your life, your business, your income, and who you are? I don't know. But if you want it, and you want that high level, next level stuff, then let's connect. Let's have a chat. If it's right for you, it's right for you. If it's not, it's not. And that's okay. Either way, we leave as friends. But guess what? It's about expansion. It's about going to that whole new level. If you knew what was possible and what you're capable of, you wouldn't even be doubting yourself in the slightest. You'd be playing so big, so full out, that it would blow your mind how amazing life is. And if that's what you want, then guess what? Head over to andymurphy.biz or andymurphy.online, depending when you listen to this. Click on Mentor, apply to chat with me. Apply, right? Because guess what? Going to be a game changer. I've done this for 10,000 plus people. We've done this for 19 years all over the world with the best in the world, and I just want to share the same tactics, strategies that I shared with them. That's taken people from 1 million a year to 65 million the same year. That's taken people with ideas and got them out into the world and helped thousands of people, and I want to share the same information with you. Remember, this is not self-help, this is not life coaching, and it's not even personal development. This is about neuro-conditioning and getting you ready to step into a whole new world. And if that sounds perfect and you resonate with today, let's connect. Let's connect. You can either go to the show notes, click on the link, or you can go directly with me. Either way, head over to the show notes because there's lots of cool links. We've got Get Your Morning Right, switch it on with your Fire My Morning audio. It's going to drop you into brainwaves. It's going to program your brain and going to make you on fire for the day. And what else? Yeah, make sure you're heading over to Andy Murphy Mindset, which is the Facebook group. We got 3,000 plus people in there, all hustling along, and I want to interact and connect with you personally. So head over there. What else? Well, you have an amazing week. Much love. And 309 times now. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.